The rumor started like harmattan dust, fine, everywhere, and in your mouth before you even knew it was there. They're going this weekend, Ema whispered on the football pitch, palms pressed to his knees. Sly, dollars, the whole crew, straight to Lagos. The sun hung low over Koiban, the field a quilt of bare earth and stubborn grass. Etim dribbled to patch past Ima's shaky defense and missed the post by inches. Somebody shouted, "Goal!" anyway. Boys in Abba-made slippers and cut-off jerseys scattered, chasing the ball in the last orange light as if the day could be stretched by will alone. Etim didn't answer at first. He'd heard the rumor too. Everyone had. The big boys, Sly, Dollars, Mr. Ben, and Crispy, were leaving. Not for school, not for apprenticeships. For work, they said, tapping their chests like that word meant a secret and a destiny. City work. Online work. The kind that reached into a stranger's life and pulled out money like a magician pulls out scarves. No one said the ugly name. They didn't have to. By the time the muezzin's call drifted from the other side of the stream, the air had cooled. Women were returning from the market with tied wrappers and plastic bowls on heads, their chatter stitching the road into a moving fabric. Etim and Ema walked home with the ball between them, letting it roll, stopping it with minor flicks. A fine dust lifted from the roadside and sat on their skin like a second coat. "Do you think they'll come back rich?" Ema asked. "They always say they will," Etim said, trying to sound older than 14. His voice still cracked in the middle of sentences like a thin stick. "Maybe they will. Sly said once that money is not in farms. It's in the city, inside the phone." Emma looked at his own phone, a stubborn spider-web screen that still glowed when the network was merciful. "Inside the phone," he repeated softly, as if it were a prayer. Etim said nothing. He could see Sly's face clearly, the neat haircut, the funny way he squinted when he smiled, the cracked iPhone he carried like a medal. Sly's WhatsApp status was always a motivational poster. No food for lazy man, hustle till your haters ask if you're hiring. It was easy to laugh until you noticed the way small boys stared at him like he'd unlocked a door no one else could find. Near his compound, a generator coughed to life and smoothed into a grumbling purr. Etim's mother was outside, balancing a basin on a low stool and rinsing Gary with a steady hand. She looked up at the sound of their footsteps. "You and this ball," she said, half a scold, half a smile. "Drop it inside before it rolls into the backyard again. Ema, go and greet your mother for me." "Yes, Ma," Ema said, already backing away. "Good evening, Ma." "Evening." Etim washed his hands in a yellow bowl and leaned on the doorway, watching his mother. The radio inside the room was low, a talk show about government plans that sounded exactly like last year's plans and next year's. He wanted to say reading. They are going to Lagos this weekend, but the words felt like a spark in dry thatch. It would light everything too quickly. His mother started the fire. The dry wood snapped, caught, and took. "You're quiet," she said after a while. "Nothing," he lied. She smiled without looking at him. "When a boy says nothing, there is always a something behind it. Talk." "They're going," he said. "Sly and the rest, this weekend." Her hands didn't stop moving. She poured the Gary into a sieve and the soft white rain of grains fell into a bucket. Everybody is talking," Etim said, suddenly angry at her calm. "They'll go and come back with big money. You will see." His mother set the sieve aside and wiped her hands on her wrapper. "Listen to me," she said, and her voice lost the smile. "The road to money has two sides. One is straight, it is hard, it takes time. The other is crooked, it is fast, and it cuts you where you cannot see. You bleed and you think it's sweat." "It's not like that," he said, hearing how childish it sounded. She tilted her head. "You think I don't know the city? Your uncle slept on a veranda for 6 months before his apprenticeship paid him anything. He is a man today because he learned patience, not tricks. Be careful who you clap for, Etim. Sometimes we are cheering for the person who is building a jail with his own hands." He looked away, embarrassed, irritated, and yet not untouched. He didn't want her warnings. He wanted miracles that wore sneakers. That night, the village hummed with low conversations. At the corner shop, old soldiers who had fought wars in places you only saw on maps tapped cigarettes against beer bottles and argued about politics. Girls in ankle bracelets walked in pairs, heat shimmering at their wrists from cheap bangles. Boys clustered, boys like Etim and Ema, faces still soft, eyes already sharpening, talking about Sly and Dollars like players before a final match. They'll get to Lagos, join the big boys, someone said, swaggering with words he'd borrowed from a cousin. They already have links. Dollars will flow. Who told you? Another asked. He shrugged. Sly told Crispy. Crispy told Ben. Ben told me. And you told us, Ema laughed. Links, Etim said quietly, tasting the word. It felt like a hidden ladder. They found the big boys at the back of Mama Effiong's canteen, where the light bulb had a circle of dead moths around it like a crown. Sly sat with his back to the wall, watching the doorway as if he was counting exits. He was only 21, but he spoke with the slow certainty of someone used to being heard. Our boys, he said when he saw Etim and Ema. He always called them our boys, as if he owned a stake in their future. You still playing ball on that useless field? Yes, bro, Ema said, smile too quick, voice too eager. Good, Sly said, not really listening. He gestured to the empty chair. Sit down. Drink something. They didn't sit. It felt wrong. Sly had a way of filling a room. His phone lay on the table, screen facing down, the back of it reflecting the light in thin, stubborn scratches. Dollars was beside him, shorter, wave-brushed hair, eyes that never sat still. Crispy laughed too loudly at things that weren't funny. Mr. Ben talked almost not at all. We're moving, Sly said, not bothering to lower his voice. Saturday morning. Lagos first. Then we see how the spirit leads. God go duam, Dollars said, a phrase you could bend around anything. Etim found his voice. Will you come back? Sly smiled, that squint again. Of course. And when we do, you will know. There are levels, small boys. Levels. He drummed his fingers on the phone. Just keep your head down. When it is your time, you will understand. What work will you do? Ema blurted out. Sly's smile thinned. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Work, he said softly, the word made of glass. Real work. City work. Not the kind you can explain to everyone. Some things are for doers, not talkers. Crispy laughed again, but no one joined him. On Saturday, the park was a theater. The bus they had chosen wasn't the newest, but the driver had stringed a rosary around the mirror and taped a sticker to the dashboard that said no condition is permanent. Women sold meat pies and sachet water through the windows. Someone hawked power banks and miracle prayer books in the same breath. The big boys arrived in a small parade of borrowed cars and plastic suitcases that multiplied at the sight of onlookers. Sly wore a white tee so crisp it made everything else look tired. Dollars had a belt with a gold lion head as if he was wearing a story. Mr. Ben, quiet, carried a backpack that hung flat, like he kept nothing too heavy inside, just the idea of leaving. Crispy had a speaker, and he made it talk even when no one was dancing. Nah who no go? No go no. Someone shouted. Money no be anybody friend, another answered. Etim felt the crowd swell around him, and he let it lift him. He elbowed forward until he stood at the window where Sly leaned, one arm outside, rings catching light. Bro, Ema called, bring something for us. Sly grinned, reached in his pocket, and flicked a crisp note in the air. 3 more followed. The boys scrambled, hands, elbows, laughter, little flares of violence that quickly died when nothing larger offered itself. Etim's fingers closed on one of the notes. It was new enough to smell like wet ink and plastic. For one dizzy second, he felt chosen. Over the noise, someone coughed authority. Chief Okan emerged from a cluster of elders, his walking stick tapping rhythm on the cement like a metronome for old wisdom. He wore a cap pulled low and a shirt that had seen many council meetings. Children, he said, and his voice cut cleaner than the generator, cleaner than the conductor's bell. Let a man who has eaten pepper tell you about fire. There are roads that look short until you are lost on them. There is work that looks easy until it owns your name. Walk carefully. He turned his eyes on Sly's crew, not accusing, not pleading, measuring. And you, he said, if you return, return with dignity, not with borrowed swagger, not with night money. If you have ears, hear. Dollars rolled his eyes. Chief, not blessing we need now, not proverb, he said under his breath, careful to keep the disrespect in a low register. Sly lifted a palm. We hear you, sir. Pray for us. I always do, the chief answered and stepped back into the human tide. The driver yelled, last passenger. He had been yelling it for 20 minutes. Mothers blessed foreheads. Old friends slapped backs like sending courage through skin. Phone cameras hovered like moths, catching selfies, capturing histories you could edit later. Etim found himself standing close to the door, not sure how he had arrived there, as if the bus had a quiet magnet. Sly looked down at him. "Small boy," he said. "Bro, keep your head, school, sense. Don't let anybody rush you." It sounded like advice. It also sounded like a man closing a door with a smile. The bus hissed, coughed, and gave a growl that meant movement. Hands waved. The speaker, Crispy's stubborn toy, finally fell silent. As the bus pulled out, Sly lifted his phone high, filming the crowd, filming the road he was leaving, and the faces he planned to impress later. Etim's stomach twisted with something he would not have called envy. He and Emma ran after the bus for a few steps, because that is what boys do when things feel too big to watch with your hands in your pockets. Dust rose and made a curtain. The curtain fell. The bus took the bend and was gone. Silence is never total in a village, but something like silence settled. The market resumed its murmured bargain. A rooster remembered to complain. Someone's generator backfired and died. Emma laughed suddenly, breathless. "Did you see Sly's ring? Like cinema." Etim nodded, staring at the bend in the road as if the bus would change its mind and reverse. In his pocket, the crisp note warmed against his thigh. It felt heavier than its value. His mother's voice reached him before he turned and saw her. "Etim," she called, not angrily, not urgent, just threading his name through the air with the ease of years. "Come, help me fetch water." He looked over his shoulder at her, wrapper tied firm, scarf simple, eyes steady. He looked again at the road. For a beat, he stood suspended between two futures small enough to fit in his chest. Then he turned and walked toward her. As they carried the jerry cans home, he wanted to say that he understood her warnings. He wanted to confess that the bus had pulled something in him that scared him. He wanted to ask if wanting more always meant you were already lost. But he only said, "The well is low." "It will rain," she said. They passed Chief Okan, who was talking to a group of elders under the mango tree. The chief's eyes rested on Etim, heavy but not unkind. He lifted his chin in a small salute, a message without words: choose slow fires. They cook better food. That night, the village exhaled. The stars came out as if counted by patient fingers. Etim lay on his mat, the fan pushing warm air around, the note still in his pocket, like a hot coal cooling to ash. Somewhere far away, a bus carried 4 boys into a city that eats with sharp teeth and smiles while it chews. Before sleep took him, he thought of Sly's last words, "Don't let anybody rush you," and wondered if they were advice or a dare, or the first stone in a path he didn't have to take. He didn't know it yet, but that was the night something shifted in Ekot Eben. Not when the big boys returned, flashing. Not when the first siren wailed months later. The change started now, in the soft room where a boy tried to sleep with a red note burning his thigh and a road burning his mind. And the road, always the road, waited. The days after the departure felt longer, as if the village itself had stretched to fill the absence of the boys who had left. Their names lingered in every corner like smoke after a fire. Sly, Dollars, Mr. Ben, Crispy, spoken with a mixture of awe, envy, and disapproval, depending on who carried the syllables. The schoolyard, once alive with laughter and gossip, now had a shadow beneath its noise. The younger boys whispered about the city, about laptops that could pull dollars from thin air, about hotel rooms and cars with names that rolled off the tongue like magic spells. Benz, Lexus, Range. They spoke in borrowed phrases: cash out, runs, updates. Words they didn't fully understand but wore proudly like oversized shoes. Etim tried to bury himself in the rhythm of life. Each morning he joined his mother to fetch water from the well. The bucket's rope scraped against the concrete ring, the splash echoing up from the depth like a warning. He carried jerry cans until his shoulders burned, then went to school where the teacher's chalk scratched weary lessons about mathematics and proverbs. But everywhere the city followed him, on the cracked screens of boys' phones, in the brag of Emma who repeated every rumor like gospel. "Did you hear?" Emma said one afternoon as they walked home barefoot, the dust warming their souls. "Dollars already sent money back to his people, 10 bundles. They say his father built a new zinc roof this week." Etim frowned. "Who told you?" "My cousin in Uyo. He said Sly is even snapping pictures with Oyibo babes." Etim didn't argue. He had seen the pictures too, posted on WhatsApp status, the backgrounds too blurry, the watches too shiny, the hotel curtains too foreign. The comments beneath them read like hymns. Ride on, boss. You too much. God bless the hustle. No one asked what hustle it was. No one dared. In the evenings, the elders gathered at Chief Okon's compound. Their voices carried through the air, heavy with warnings. Etim's mother sometimes stood outside, listening, her face carved with worry. Children now run faster than their shadows, she said one night, pounding yam with steady strength. They think the city is a river you drink from and never thirst again. But the younger generation wasn't listening. At the football field, the talk shifted from who scored goals to who would leave next. Some boys boasted they had uncles in Lagos who could connect them. Others swore they'd sell goats, even farmland, just to buy a laptop. Emma kicked the ball into the net and shouted, "Next year, it's me! I won't still be here wasting time." The laughter that followed wasn't disbelief, it was excitement. Etim stood apart, silent. His eyes wandered to the road leading out of the village, the same road the bus had taken Sly and the others. It looked ordinary in daylight, red earth winding through cassava fields, but to him it glowed faintly, like a fuse burning slowly towards something explosive. That night, lying on his mat, he replayed Sly's grin at the bus park. "Don't let anybody rush you." The words returned, heavy, mocking, like a coin in his pocket he couldn't spend. He wanted to believe his mother's warnings, Chief Okon's proverbs, but he also wanted to believe Emma's stories, the pictures, the swagger of boys who had become men overnight. Between those two worlds, the old one of patience and farming and the new one of fast money and screens, felt himself standing on a thin rope, balanced above an unseen fall. And in the distance, the rope quivered. The return of the big boys. The first sign was the sound, not the usual sputter of Okadas or the slow groan of timber trucks. This was a deep growl, polished and heavy, a car that didn't belong on village roads. Children ran barefoot into the street, their laughter ringing like bells. Women abandoned basins at the well, their hands dripping water. Even the elders at the palm wine joint turned their heads. The big boys had returned. Sly's Lexus SUV led the small convoy, its paint catching the afternoon sun like a mirror. Behind him, dollars rolled in a tinted Toyota Camry with music thumping from a speaker system so loud it rattled zinc roofs. Crispy and Mr. Ben trailed in smaller cars, but even those outshone anything the village had seen in years. The dust that rose behind them looked like smoke announcing victory. At Mama Effiong's canteen, the boys parked, stepping out with the grace of men who had forgotten the dust of their childhood. Chains glimmered at their necks, shoes without a speck of red earth. Dollars wore a designer shirt with letters too bold for the village eye. Sly's watch flashed like a small sun each time he lifted his hand. "Ah, our sons!" Mama Effiong cried, wiping her hands on her wrapper as if that would clean them enough to shake wealth. "See as Lagos has fattened you!" Sprays of money answered her greeting. Crisp notes fluttered into the air, falling on children who dived like birds. Even the grown men bent quickly, pretending to tie sandals as they scooped their share. Dollars laughed, holding a bundle high and tossing it again like seed into hungry soil. The small boys, Etim, Emma, and the rest, stood at the edge of the crowd, their eyes wide, hearts pounding with a dangerous mixture of admiration and hunger. Emma whispered, "Did you see? Real Ben's chain. Lagos money is not a joke." Etim swallowed, his throat dry. He wanted to believe the noise, the shine, the rain of cash. But behind the laughter, he thought he saw something else in Sly's eyes, a quick scan of the crowd, sharp, calculating, as though measuring who still worshipped and who might be a threat. The elders gathered too, though their faces wore no smiles. Chief Okon tapped his staff against the earth, the sound stubborn against the blaring music. "Welcome," he said, voice low but steady. "But remember, a man is not measured by the size of his car, but by the size of his shadow when the sun sets." His words were drowned by cheers as Dollars popped a bottle of liquor, spraying it across the boys who surged closer, laughing, shouting. The air reeked of alcohol and smoke. In the chaos, Etim felt Emma's hand clutch his wrist, pulling him forward. "Let's go close," Emma urged. "These are our people now. Don't you want them to know your face?" Etim hesitated, then stepped into the crush of bodies. Sly's gaze landed on him, and for a heartbeat it felt like fire. Sly smiled, slow, sharp. "Our boys," he said, just as he had before leaving. Small boys turning to men. "Don't worry, your time is coming." The crowd roared approval. Edom felt it wrap around him like a storm, lifting him off his feet. But deep inside, where his mother's warning still lingered, something tugged uneasily. Because the big boys had returned, not just with cars and money, but with something darker in their laughter, something heavier in their eyes. And the village, dazzled by glitter, didn't notice the shadow creeping back with them.